Yeah,
Felix Pinard, welcome.
thank you.
The Felix costume and the Atlas costume are now getting the chance to play.
Yeah, dive deeper.
Yeah. Felix and I met in the No Limit Society NLS group, and I'm really grateful because he's been one of the strongest, brightest forces in there. And so this is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited too.
Let's start things off with Felix by asking the classic question: what are you?
Yeah, interesting. Fuck. Yeah, I would go with I am a spark of the infinite.
Mm. And could you expand on that for us?
Well, it is an ever-expanding spark. Yes. So currently it is expressing itself through this mind-body-spirit complex called Felix here on Earth. Yeah. Seems that this is a wandering soul. So kind of accelerated journey of remembrance of the true nature and all the good things that go with it.
Ooh, that's a really good start. I love that start. That's so great. Okay. So let's ask the follow-up to that question. What are you not?
Nice. Well, all of the above. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like I can play with different points of view of identity. So it's like I
Cool.
could say nothing is me. Like even God, awareness, love, light. I could say it's not me. But then I see it also as it's still a bias. I feel like to go too much into this not me, not me, not me, because in the end, the one is all, the one is everything. And actually, I was just thinking about this before our conversation. I was thinking about the absolutes and how often we use this term like as in opposition to awareness or God or whatever. And it can be definitely a useful pointer, but then I feel it's important to bring it all back together as one. If it's truly absolute, it cannot be like other than. So I don't know if it answers the question.
Yeah. That's great. I've really been enjoying the sort of, there's so many of these different methods and procedures and strategies, but one that I've really enjoyed is this two-step where there's several two-steps, but let's play with this two-step, which is sort of the neti two away from person consciousness towards the more subtle awareness that is impersonal and eternal, and then even transcending the first attribute of awareness itself. in understanding what that absolute is and is not. And then, so there's that neti process, and then there's the inclusion. So step one is like neti, and step two is this like radical inclusion in terms of I am the source of infinite possibilities, and I am the impersonal eternal awareness, and I am this Felix and Atlas costume. How does that resonate?
Yes, very much. And I would say it's even like a natural thing that happens, because it's like the more we get disentangled with the personal construct, the less there is a bias against anything. So it's like naturally, once we're enough dissolved into awareness, then awareness doesn't have anything against the more relative expression. So it naturally just comes back and includes.
I love that point. It's great. It's the less you become conditioned to associate yourself with the distortions and the kinks and the twists and the 10,000 layers of those distortions, kinks, and twists, that then you have less bias, you have less service to self. I don't feel as unsafe then. I feel less unsafe. And so therefore, as I feel more safe, I feel more happiness, more peace, more Satchitananda naturally. And therefore, I also feel more of the service to other tendency of being the sun radiating out peace, happiness, joy, abundance, prosperity, well-being, and that true nature just emanating more. So the less person, the less bias, and the less also having to shove the point of view everywhere. I really like the quote from the retreat that Bentinho said, was that your need to insert your point of view will create holes in the ship. And Richard Condon said that the hardest thing for a human to let go of is their point of view.
Yeah, but I would say it's even because the point of view is the personality, like, or maybe it's even beyond it. Maybe even like the personality is a byproduct of the point of view. So in a way, we could even say like the person cannot let go of its point of view, because it has to come from behind it, beyond it.
It's distorted, twisted, kinked point of view that I'm a separate, finite, biological, egoic, contracted energy that's separate from everything, that doesn't know its true nature. That perspective with all those kinks and distortions is that point of view that is then twisted and creates suffering, versus the whole point of infinity expressing itself, as is in our banner, is that you get this unique costume. You have endless unique costumes. And so the point is the unique costumes expressing themselves. Yeah. And the finding process, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in a way that also redeems the personal bullshit and all of this, because then it's realized that it's the free will of the creator. It's infinity expressing itself through forgetting its true nature, but that's just one aspect of infinity. And that doesn't also suppress the seeking impulse to reach for more and more of the truth. So kind of create this back and forth between the more personal relative level and the more absolute expanded. And it's becoming more and more like a dance or a love affair. Each one trying to get into the other one, and then again and again.
Ooh, I like that. That also reminds me a lot of how it really does resonate at a deep level to recognize the arduous iteratory process of landing on the mind body spirit complex itself as the vehicle for the dancing / love affair to happen. As in, it took many creations and densitory ascents to land on this sort of, as in the law of one map, that third density play space is so filled with dynamic fireworks right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, even from, I think some of the things maybe said in the law of one, I think there was also the hint that the Earth is also a very special kind of 3D environment, where it's not always as chaotic and just like a whole mess of all kind of different energies. But this makes it also a great place to learn and accelerate.
So Earth is a special environment and the human is a special vehicle.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. But I mean, yeah.
I mean, just the very essence of being able to create costumes that
Yeah.
that in itself is already mind-blowing.
For sure. Like this idea of I am this. Like from the infinite to 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 set up something where it can feel more like I am here and not there, but still experience there, but feel like no, this is me, this is where I am. This is such a mystery. This is such a genius invention.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it resonates with what we were saying earlier, with the fact that the more we relax our biases, the more we can actually include the relative and appreciate it. I feel like when we're very stuck in personhood, we can have very much a distaste of this individualization and this me and all of this, and feel like I want to just dissolve and just get done with this shit. But the more we actually dissolve, the more we're like, oh, actually, this is fun. This is great stuff. and yeah, this is such a genius construct. Like to imagine this, it's like so mind blowing.
To loop us with what we were just saying and how you initially answered with what are you, there is this genius, mysterious invention mechanism of our source of infinite possibility, which is this costume generator. And the costume generator is these sparks of the infinite. And there's this funny ass process where the spark of the infinite, quote, forgets. This is what our NLS Zoom call was like. It was Felix and I giggling back and forth. Woo! The costume generator. That was a funny one. Yeah, yeah. You've heard of that, right? The random number generator, right? In computer science.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yes. This one can also seem quite random, but actually it's very precise and very intentional.
Yeah. There's a will. There's an exploratory will.
Yes, and an intelligence, like beyond anything we can imagine.
I like the two words that Bentinho used at the Shift into Permanent Alignment retreat. He said that intelligent infinity is intelligent and it comprehends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've heard him use this term comprehend for the absolute and the way it relates to awareness. I think it's quite good.
And there's so much endless possibility to explore. It becomes the coolest game in town to undergo the most dynamic, crazy, exploratory ascensions that have high levels of difficulty. It's not like planet Earth is some fucking walk in a flower park.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's like you walk through the the polarization between like massive poverty and massive wealth, and meanwhile you just walk through with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's very much like a war zone. But then
you go to southern France and then you're chilling.
yeah, also, but it depends on your point of view, because if anywhere, even where people are chilling, like from a more awakened perspective, it's still like, I mean, it's still full of love and it's still full of shit. So depends what you. But yeah, what I also wanted to add to this like war zone perspective is that actually, yeah, the more we awaken, the more we realize that it's all taken care of. Like there is no worry to have. It's just it's all happening by itself. So then you can just walk through bullets, and it's like, yeah, whatever. There's just this space carrying us through anything.
And one of the devil's advocate contrasting perspectives to that, which I very much so agree with what the Felix costume here is sharing, and yet there are these other devil's advocate costumes that would share, like, well, if we put the Felix costume into one of those war zone rooms and started waterboarding him and started cutting off each one of his fingers one at a time, there.
Yeah.
I am liberated from all the misery.
Yeah, for sure. It can get very intense, and I mean, it's even part of the play to forget to an extent, even when we are fairly awakened, and that's still this aspect of getting more into the mess and the mud, and it's part of the process also to get to this point where we take things very seriously and believe we are at stake, and and yeah, afterward we look back on it and we laugh a bit about it, a lot, and that's just part of the expansion process. It's like, again, it's this kind of back and forth, and it's again and again and again, it allows for deeper and deeper purification. Because there are just things that would be so much harder to reach if there was not this forgetting process.
Yeah. Yeah. The coolest feature is that ability to veil itself. The veilless veil. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
that's
like the
such a
coolest feature.
mystery. Like, when you really look at it, it's like, what?
Yeah. But I've also learned that those specifically born into contexts that have very enlightened parents, or in some of the indigenous traditions, they will ensure that the child up from birth knows itself as a spark of the infinite. And so that
Mhm.
veilless veil never even gets the chance to latch on with all these layers of identity and the contracted energy associated with being a finite form person consciousness. And that's also really, really interesting, is that though veilless veil really only kicks in for very unconscious, ignorant parenting and societal structures.
Yes, it's a kind of group consciousness construct. It's just a kind of agreement. We look at like from a soul perspective, it's like this bunch of soul all agreeing like, okay, we're going to veil ourselves and just play with blindfold on, basically. Try to figure out what's what.
Wee!
Yeah.
That's a good one. The like blindfolded soul. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
Jumping in the pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
There was that funny a funny meme I recently saw where it was being asked again, "Hey, will you come and help with the ascent of this planet in the third density?" And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And for sure, I think we have experiences like this with also smaller kinds of bubble reality that we get into. We can kind of sense that we're getting into maybe a denser veil or kind of some specific experience. And it's like there is it can be a kind of back and forth, like, ooh, like at the same time there is this love impulse and this also, yeah, this just the freedom, the carefree nature of the one knowing itself. It's like I'm up for anything, but at the same time there is this more relative experience, or like the shit's gonna hit the fan, like for sure. It's gonna get messy. And yeah, oftentimes I found myself in kind of this in between. Well, like the remnants of the personality are kind of like resisting it, but then I see that from a deeper perspective. That's really what I want, like to
Yep.
to give myself like this and to be in service of love.
Well, what is there cooler to do than to be in service of a planetary remembering?
I don't know. It's infinite, so there must be things cooler than that.
I feel like being a Jedi and like sending these little like fire flames underneath of people's asses to help them remember is like the coolest thing.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, there's infinite, meaning there's going to be so many other possibilities of what we experience right now as this rock orbiting a star that has 8 billion units on it in a civilization that has a very specific history, that has these vehicles that have 2 eyes and 4 limbs and carbon-based DNA encoded, 13.8 billion year evolutionary ascent to get here. That whole story itself in the span of eternity is a grain of sand.
Yeah. And even beyond that, like the whole trajectory of the soul across the 7 density, it's also infinitely small. And it's one thing that Bentinho shared an example of from the law of one, but there are clues about like 9th density being coming back to help us, like with the ascension process, and there is some description of them.
Yeah,
I'm
those
really fascinated. Yeah, go ahead.
Those that jump between universes.
Yeah, like and like following that kind of thread, we can expand like more and more and more, and realize like it's also infinite in this dimension, and it's like, whoa, shit.
Yep.
And I love how it puts everything in such a vast perspective. It's like,
yep,
it's like there's only now, and it's infinite.
Yeah, there's that. I'll pull this one up over here for us. I can't get it too large because it will blur a bit, but I can get it about that large. So let's showcase it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love this one. I think this one came in the chat.
Yeah.
Be
Maybe
here
even
now.
a couple times.
Which way should we go? How long will it take to get there? Where is that? How far away is it? How do we get there? That was me 5 years ago, and even 4 years ago, and 3 years ago, and 2 years ago, and like last year I started getting it, and I was like, okay, I think I'm starting to get it. This shit's so funny.
Yeah. I mean, what's great also is that during all this questioning, it's just like, here it is. It's still the eternal now.
Yeah, and really to have a have had as a child growing up, to have had a part of the pedagogy of the education be about me being a spark of the infinite. This is a costume generated by the infinite. I have made the decision to come as a mind, body, spirit complex for unleashing some sort of a contribution in the planetary Leela, the play, the divine cosmic play that's unfolding here. And yeah, nobody ever fucking taught me Satchidananda in school.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's interesting to contemplate these things, because I can also see how having denser, like in the sense of more veiled experience, childhood can also be of great benefits then.
Great.
Because I've also, I've been to a particular community which is quite spiritual in nature, and there were examples of children being born in this community, and so it was not like fully enlightened or whatever, but there were definitely some aspects of what you said about teaching the children that they are a spark of the infinite and so on. And so these children growing up could have some difficulty also to relate to the wider world, and yeah, all the mess that goes on. And so yeah, there are different aspects of it. It's like it just creates different experiences altogether.
Have you heard this one? It goes right there. It goes, the brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow. And I like that one a lot. Yet something to remember about that is, if you get out. So the brighter the flame, if you get out of that deeper shadow. So
Yes.
yeah, because you see the locks on that 3D matrix grid of governments and propaganda and politicians and economic machinery and fast food and high fructose corn syrup and all this type of nonsensical bullshit that we created. Those locks are like fucking massive boulders the size of skyscrapers attached to our ankles. And so, sitting there and chipping away at the illusory skyscraper boulder. This is ridiculous. Okay, this would probably be a good time to ask you about your calling, people experiencing absolute love.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
So I think I've talked about it already quite a bit.
But what does it look like for people experiencing absolute love? How does the Felix costume contribute to people experiencing absolute love?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like definitely, it's a work in progress. Yeah. Yeah, I mean the sense of it is that it can look all kind of way, because like the nature of absolute means that it's not restricted to one kind of expression, and it's definitely some aspect of what I've been enjoying in my life, is to have very different kinds of expression and different environments where I express myself. And so I feel like it's quite a big part of this calling, is to be very flexible and to find the way to love in all circumstances, basically. So that's a good starting point.
That's huge, because it gives you flexibility. Same thing with me, with people experiencing truth. That's one of my main favorite parts about it, is the flexibility that's associated with it. Because as a Jedi, we can sort of navigate across the spectrum of people experiencing absolute love or truth. And I love how you give that definition of absolute as no limits. I think that's really a good way to put it. Yeah. Usually people put the definition as highest, absolute as highest, but I like the definition as no limits. That's a good one too. Not restricted. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it just has to be all inclusive, and I mean the word love also points to this. To me, it's really this like it's about everything. But at the same time, I feel that the absolute word also brings a kind of more focused energy on more, because I've been playing also with the term infinite love, and I've been enjoying it also quite a bit. But it feels with infinite love, it feels sometimes a bit too imbalanced toward love and too too just open. With
That's
absolute
cool.
love, it feels like there's a more balance between like feminine, masculine, or love and wisdom. But that's what I've been playing with actually quite recently. So yeah.
Infinite love feels too imbalanced. That's pretty interesting. Or yeah, almost like for some reason, infinite love might sound like in the law of one, maybe a little bit like the overzealous fourth density. And then the absolute love can maybe feel like it's balanced out with wisdom in the sixth unity, something like that.
Yeah,
It's kind of interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's cool though, that even the word itself, to be at that level, we just did a video on callings, like what is your calling, to help the audience with generating that divine process. And you're at a place of such nuance where you're actually going through these really strong different words. And so to get to that point, I think is also really good and it's really helpful.
yeah, yeah. And it's an interesting process because in the end, it's not about the word; it's what they're pointing to. But still, like we get to feel the nuances with the word. And actually, maybe if someone else was using the same words, it would have a different meaning and a different vibration. So it's also a very individual process. It's just like something.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Somebody whose calling is infinite love could feel the opposite. Like they could, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's interesting. Where they don't feel as much resonance with absolute love. That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody could be like, say something similar about how experiencing truth isn't as resonant for them. For example, Corey Malone, his is people experiencing magic. And so for him, magic is like the truth at a higher level. And for me, truth is the word that I chose for that. Yeah. So it's yeah.
yeah. I think in the end, our calling is pretty much always like our own specific taste of the one. So it's just, and it's quite fascinating because it's still a kind of bias, but it's so subtle. Um, it's like the bias of our soul, or of a very deep and very intimate aspect of ourselves, but it's still not the full self.
Actually, Sri Aurobindo and the Mother Mira Alfasa used to call it the soul angle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I like the way of describing it. It's resonant. We had this really funny moment where I feel like this will resonate what I'll share. We had this really funny moment in one of the NLS videos where I was walking us through this spontaneous, just guided abiding as ineffable perfection. And then there was like a break in the audio for a moment, and then one of the other sort of members decided to, in a sense, just be like, let's move and talk about something else. And then you and I were both, I feel like, really analytically saw what was happening with how there's that impulse to move away from the abiding as ineffable perfection. And we started giggling, and then and then we brought it back to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely I can also feel it in myself, like this urge to move or to do something.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about your process with that fun this. Just this ineffable perfection, just recognizing and abiding, rather than, well, what's the next book that I have to read? What's the next entheogen that I have to take? What's the,
Yeah.
oh, I am already what I seek, Yeah. So how has that been like for you? Like what do you have a process of just kind of defocusing, or how does that process look like for you?
Cool question. I mean, the funny thing is that in the end, it's beyond all methods. So we can use methods, but it's only a crutch. It's or a permission slip or whatever we want to call it. But it can be useful, definitely. Um, I mean, yeah, it depends. Many times it's just like there is enough momentum that it's just happening by itself. Or even saying that, it's still suggesting that it could not happen by itself. but but yeah, there are also definitely times where it feels like there is more of a specific method angle that works best for me.
And what would you say
So,
that is? Yeah.
so for example, yesterday I had a great time with, yeah, I had very wonderful meditation with, starting with, actually, yeah, coming from the absolute, maybe using this pointer like, stay as the absolute. So this is a very potent one for me. It really allows to let go of all identification with what appears. And so, but then during that meditation, also what kicks it, what kicked in was, yeah, actually that's a good expression of my calling also, because what was activated was also very much this love energy, this focus in the heart. And then again, like seeing it from the absolute, there is the dissolution of the identification with even the most intimate sense of love. And so this process got very intense, and but in a very soft and gentle way. It was actually very, very beautiful. Because in the past I've definitely had some times where focusing on the absolute felt more imbalance in a way of, yeah, like too much trying to get to somewhere, or too much like a sense of just a tension around that, which in itself is due of still some identification with the appearance. Because if you're truly the absolute, then there is not this contraction, this. So yeah, but for example, this more focus toward the absolute, it doesn't necessarily happen that often for me.
I love the coming from the absolute method. And
Yeah,
I feel like there is a couple ways to, in a sense, at least from how I understand it, coming from, there's like coming from, I am already the absolute, indescribable, ineffable perfection right here, right now.
yeah,
And then there's this other sort of way, which is kind of like we talked about at the beginning with this sort of neti approach from the person consciousness to becoming the impersonal, eternal awareness, to becoming even getting that last thorn of awareness even out of the way. And then there's also sort of coming from the absolute, and then in a sense, using the first attribute of awareness, and then using, it's almost like when we simulate a dream at night, in a sense. Because when you simulate the dream at night, you simulate out the observer and the environment for the observer, that kind of a thing.
yeah. It's also how we simulate the dream during the day.
Yeah. I love that. That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's almost like the one kind of here and now is the absolute. The two is kind of the neti to absolute. And the third one is like absolute simulating observer and reality. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. Here I can oops, nope, not that one. I want to do this one. Let's see if I can do multiple. I've been trying to see if I can do multiple. So there's that one. Okay, so I'll play around with it to see if I can do multiple, but so that's the second one, and then there's this one. Oh, no, not that. There we go. Yeah. Pretty interesting.
Yeah. Different toys to play with.
Oh, these are great toys.
Yeah. Divine toys.
The divine toys. I love it. Wow. The divine toys. That's an interesting one. Yeah. And this is sort of what you could say is the after years of analysis of a meta pattern, in a sense, of the landscape of mystics and yogis and retreats and entheogens and aphorisms and books and all these things, the meta pattern is you get to these divine toys. And people get to different divine toys, but the general idea is that this is ineffable perfection. You're so already free. Oh my God. Yeah, it just becomes we. It's like this balance between which is ultimately one, but it's kind of this balance between this sort of like Buddha like we with like the Atlas like Planetary Enlightenment, type thing. Yeah, so it's cool to merge them.
Yeah. Well, in Bentinho's words, it would be like the mirror with shepherding qualities.
I was thinking about this, like, Bentinho mentioned this during the shift also into permanent alignment, where he said that you can be awakened and run several successful businesses around planetary enlightenment and maximizing the collective's potential. And that really resonates with me, but then that also gets balanced with, like Anurag Gupta talked about on the Mirror Talks podcast, this business reduction program.
Mm-hmm.
That shit was so funny.
Yeah.
I fucking love that one.
That's actually such a wonderful thing, is to witness different, like, decently enlightened beings, and to see like the difference in expression that can come of that same state. It's also a kind of mindfuck, and opening more and more to the mystery of it all, and we all get to be our own unique expression of that,
which ties us to the spark of the infinite.
Yeah.
Did you ever learn about the this? It's the Sufi metaphysic, Wadat al-Wujud, the unity of all finding. So, like we were talking about throughout the episode, that you have that very fractally style sparking of the infinite that then has this process of, what is my nature? And then, like you just described a moment ago, you'll never get to the end of all of the different ways that the spark of the infinite communes, finds, recognizes itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the cessation and the style and the taste of the seeking and the finding, that kind of a thing. Yeah. And so that's what the Wadat al-Wujud means, is that's the unity of all of that finding. So you have all of these different, this Felix costume and this Atlas costume and the Anurag costume and whatnot, which is why they're expressed differently, where Anurag has this like business reduction program, right, type thing.
Yeah. And then we get to interact with each other and reflect and like, and that's why the NLS is such a great place to hang. It's like there's so many interaction at a very high level. It's
Yes.
delightful.
It's such a world-class container for those that have awakened and want to purify themselves and ascend more rapidly with others of similar levels of awakening, and then build with them to ignite that global awakening. And that's been the mission that all of these callings fit with, which is ultimately what we all came to do. We all came to rapidly remember and then to catalyze remembering.
Yeah, and it's like we are resonators. So the more we remember, the more we are just broadcasting that remembrance. And then the more we gather together as resonator, the more we amplify this signal and just and get it more precise and yeah, the great stuff.
That was the first time I think I heard in that amplification process you used the word resonator. I like that. It's interesting. We amplify as a resonator.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think it goes well also with the idea of purification, of the being a vessel for the one, and the more we empty our shit, the more we can actually resonate at that high frequency very pristinely, and then it also propagates around us.
Empty your shit so you can resonate pristinely. Do you have a big cloud in front of the sunlight, or have you liberated yourself from the cloud? You know, and yeah, the cloud was an illusion. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe we could say both, because
yeah,
there's still some degree of veiling and
there is. Yeah, yeah. You would die if you
yeah, I mean,
were
not really die because it's
you.
not like
Yeah.
it's not like I'm alive, but
You would literally
the,
explode. Like this whole mind body spirit complex would explode if you felt everything at the same time or something. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we could also say that it never really existed, so it just stopped being generated. But yeah, to go back to your question, yeah, I mean, definitely there are some there is purification ongoing, and some waves. Sometimes it feels much more bright and expansive and delightful, and sometimes more contracted state, and
Yeah.
that allows for the deeper and deeper purification. And that's also one thing that came up when you brought this thing about the brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow. I think it can also work in the sense of like the deeper we can go in the shit and transmute it, then also the deeper our realization, the brighter we can shine. So
Which
yeah,
is which is why tomorrow for Mark's Accept Yourself 2.0 program, I'm having a call with him to explore becoming a fit and a part of that, because it's really interesting undergoing the process of, even though you have already underwent such a process of accepting your ineffable perfection already and have become the creator as a Gnostic being, there's still, like you describe, this process of really refining and purifying that level of knowing and accepting yourself to where you can really, really unleash super high, pristine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the way I see it, it's infinite. Like it's also the sense that I get from people that seem more ahead than me in this path. It's like there's no end to it, and I think also what Benchino shared recently is like to a great extent, like suffering can be um,
100%.
we can stop generating this kind of experiences, but I think like pain and contraction, it's another story. It's I think it can keep having some relevance, and yeah, it's also a beautiful part of the process to get more humble with that, and to also accept and embrace it even, and see the value in it.
Remember in the shift, he says, I'm a self purification engine. And that's also very inspirational because it really boils down to it, that first in the law of one, know yourself, accept yourself, become the creator. The first point of know yourself really at the level of frame by frame by frame by frame, where am I full of shit? Repeatedly. And that in itself is like, that's really inspirational, being a self-purification engine at the level of the frames. And that's, yeah, that's its own, like, that's a beast. That's like a lifelong beast to tackle. Yeah.
Or you can say it's a love affair.
Oh yeah, there you go. Beautiful.
And it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and more intimate and more beautiful.
Gosh, I love that. It's kind of reminds me of the savage and the saint. You know, you got, there's like this like vigilance and love affair. Like, yeah. It's cool
Yeah, yeah,
because it's contrast. It's all about that beautiful, both monist but also yin yang. The contrast. It's so contrastfully beautiful. We're the absolute same, and also we are the beautiful creative costume sparks.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if there is anything to add to this.
Let's put that one up also. Absolute same and creative costume sparks. Yeah. So boom. Yeah, that's a pretty good wrap.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. It was
Yeah,
really
thank you.
smooth. Felix,
Yeah,
that was
such a
really,
pleasure.
really, really smooth. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, and yeah,
You really
thanks.
have this anchored ineffable perfection resonance, and also the understanding at a level that's makes this tennis between the costumes of the I am very facile, very easy.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It was great fun to play tennis with you.
Yeah. I know. The IM loves playing tennis with itself. This
Yeah, exactly.
8 billion tennis units units hitting
Yeah.
uncountable tennis balls back and forth with one another. Like you look at the internet and it's like so many players and tennis balls happening in understanding the one great player understanding itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should definitely do a even a Felix and a Vincent Atlas one.
That could be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm actually curious to listen to you guys' conversation.
he was so good. Yeah, and you were
Yeah.
great too. I love it.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
sounds good.
All right, beautiful. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We adore you. We're very grateful. Thank you. If the video brought you value, give it a like. It helps the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below on all the topics that we talked about. And share the video with people that you feel like this would resonate with and help in their recognizing. And also, Felix, is there a good place for people to follow you on the interwebs?
I'm not really active on social media or anything, so I'm not really at anything.
Yeah, cool. Sounds good.
Looks like there will be a follow-up.
If it resonates, Felix might become a social media superstar, and we'll put some links to it.
We'll see.
We'll see. I love it. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm going to end the broadcast. You and I will stick in here. Okay.
All right.
All right. Bye everyone.
Bye-bye. Much love.
Whee!